My name's Jack Turner, and I've worn a police badge in Michigan for almost 12 years. I've seen things that scrape at the edges of a man's soul. Car crashes, overdoses, domestic violence, the whole catalog of human darkness. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the call we got that cold Thursday morning. It was just after 9 a.m. when dispatch buzzed the front desk. I was across the room, filling out paperwork, half listening, half tired, the way you get after too many back-to-back shifts. The young woman at the desk suddenly stiffened, her eyes rising toward me. "Jack," she said quietly, "you need to hear this." I walked over, still expecting something routine, maybe vandalism, maybe a missing pet call. Instead, she replayed the brief statement left on our voicemail by a resident from the north side of the district. Her voice trembled in the message. "Please, someone needs to come. Someone is hurting the cats here. I think he's burning them. I found bowls with acid. Their faces are melting. Please hurry." The room seemed to tilt for a moment. Acid? On animals? I've seen cruelty before, but this sounded like something out of a nightmare. I actually felt my breath stutter as I replayed the words in my head. Even as a cop, sometimes you think, no, nobody would do that. Humans can be ugly, but not that ugly. But experience has taught me a hard truth. Human darkness has no depth limit. I stepped into the squad room where my team was finishing morning briefing. They all fell silent when they saw my face. "Guys," I said, steadying my voice, "we've got a situation in the north neighborhood. Possible intentional harm to stray cats. Possible acid involved." There were a few mutters, swears, a couple of drawn-out sighs of disbelief. We exchanged looks, anger, confusion, disgust. But none of us hesitated. We grabbed gloves, bags for evidence, long tongs, masks, and got into the cruiser. On the way there, I found myself tightening my jaw so hard it hurt. I kept thinking, if this is real, if someone is actually pouring acid on animals, then we're not just dealing with cruelty. We're dealing with somebody not right in the head, someone dangerous. The neighborhood we pulled into was quiet, too quiet. That eerie morning stillness that always feels like something is hiding beneath it. We reached the alley behind a row of old duplexes, the one mentioned in the report. And the smell hit us first. A thick metallic sting in the air, like battery acid mixed with burning plastic. I lifted my arm to cover my nose, but it still cut into my lungs. Then we saw the bottles, scattered around the dumpster. Plastic containers, some melted, some cracked open, contents spilled into the dirt. The labels were faded, but I recognized the chemical names instantly. Industrial strength acid. Dangerous enough to burn through layers of living tissue within seconds. My stomach twisted. Then we saw the cats. Some were crouched behind the dumpster, trembling so violently their bodies shook with every breath. Others lay flat, eyes swollen shut, faces blistered and raw. Their fur was mottled, missing in patches where the acid had eaten through their skin. One cat, God, I'll never forget this, was curled up with its paws covering its face as if trying to hide from the world. When it lifted its head, the flesh around its eyes was so damaged it glistened wet and red. I heard one of my partners swallow hard behind me, whispering, "Jesus." I crouched down slowly, trying not to startle them. They hissed, not out of aggression, but out of pure panic and pain. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't neglect. This was torture. I felt something cold crawl down my spine. Someone did this on purpose. Someone planned this. "Jack," my partner said behind me, voice low, "we've got a situation in the north neighborhood. Possible intentional harm to stray cats. Possible acid involved." There were a few mutters, swears, a couple of drawn-out sighs of disbelief. We exchanged looks, anger, confusion, disgust. But none of us hesitated. We grabbed gloves, bags for evidence, long tongs, masks, and got into the cruiser. On the way there, I found myself tightening my jaw so hard it hurt. I kept thinking, if this is real, if someone is actually pouring acid on animals, then we're not just dealing with cruelty. We're dealing with somebody not right in the head, someone dangerous. The neighborhood we pulled into was quiet, too quiet. that eerie morning stillness that always feels like something is hiding beneath it. We reached the alley behind a row of old duplexes, the one mentioned in the report, and the smell hit us first. A thick, metallic sting in the air, like battery acid mixed with burning plastic. I lifted my arm to cover my nose, but it still cut into my lungs. Then we saw the bottles, scattered around the dumpster. Plastic containers, some melted, some cracked open, contents spilled into the dirt. The labels were faded, but I recognized the chemical names instantly. Industrial strength acid, dangerous enough to burn through layers of living tissue within seconds. My stomach twisted. Then we saw the cats. Some were crouched behind the dumpster, trembling so violently their bodies shook with every breath. Others lay flat, eyes swollen shut, faces blistered and raw. Their fur was mottled, missing in patches where the acid had eaten through their skin. One cat, God, I'll never forget this, was curled up with its paws covering its face as if trying to hide from the world. When it lifted its head, the flesh around its eyes was so damaged it glistened wet and red. I heard one of my partners swallow hard behind me, whispering, "Jesus." I crouched down slowly, trying not to startle them. They hissed, not out of aggression, but out of pure panic and pain. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't neglect. This was torture. I felt something cold crawl down my spine. Someone did this on purpose. Someone planned this.
"Jack," my partner said behind me, voice low. "Whoever did this, they're coming back. Look at the bottles. Look how fresh this crap is." He was right. Some containers were still warm, as if they had been handled recently. The dirt around them was damp with fresh chemical burn. That meant the suspect wasn't just dangerous. He was active, still out there, still hurting them. I stood up, my fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my skin. I made myself a silent promise in that alley. Whoever did this, I will find you, and you will never hurt another living thing again. And that was the moment, right there, next to those broken animals, that everything changed. Because this wasn't just a call anymore. This was personal. After documenting the scene, gathering samples, and photographing the injuries on the cats, we knew we needed more than evidence. We needed a plan. Whoever this person was, he wasn't acting in hiding. He was bold, comfortable, methodical. That meant he'd be back. So, the next morning, before the sun even touched the rooftops, my partner and I returned to the alley. We set up in an unmarked car, far enough not to be seen, but close enough to watch every inch of that area. The neighborhood had the same strange stillness as the day before. A biting cold, bare branches clinking like bones in the wind. Even the cats seemed quieter, hiding behind trash bins and broken pallets, peeking out with raw, damaged faces. Some trembled the moment they heard footsteps. Trauma has a sound, an invisible vibration. I could feel it. Around 10 a.m., an elderly woman stepped out of her house with a laundry basket and walked down the narrow sidewalk. She stopped when she saw a cat limping in the alley, her face collapsing in sadness. She whispered something like a prayer, shook her head, and went back inside. It made me wonder how many people had seen the damage, how many had suspected something, how many felt helpless. By 11 a.m., the cold was starting to chew through my jacket. My partner passed me a coffee from the thermos, but even that felt useless. My mind was too sharp, too wired. I kept replaying the sight of those cats, the burns, the smell, the terrified hissing that sounded more like crying. Just after noon, the hairs on my neck stood straight. Someone was coming. His footsteps were slow, scraping, uneven. An older man appeared from behind the row of duplexes, thin, bent slightly forward, wearing a heavy coat that looked older than he was. His eyes were locked on the dumpster, and in his hand, a metal bowl. My partner swore under his breath, "That's gotta be him." We watched as the man shuffled closer to the dumpster, muttering angrily under his breath. He didn't even look around, didn't check if anyone was watching.
He simply existed in his own twisted world, oblivious. He knelt by the dumpster and set down the metal bowl. Then he pulled something from his coat pocket, a small, old bottle. Acid. My chest tightened. I felt a surge of anger so sharp I nearly threw the car door open right then. But years on the force taught me better. We needed to be calm, controlled. We needed to stop him the right way. The old man poured some of the liquid into the bowl. The cat stiffened, shrinking back in instinctive terror. He didn't speak to them, didn't call them, didn't hesitate. He simply waited, as if expecting them to come closer, to suffer again. That was it. I nodded to my partner. Let's move. We stepped out of the car and approached him slowly. "Sir," I called out, firm and loud. He jerked upright, startled, the bottle clattering against the bowl. My partner moved around to block his escape path. The man looked between us, his face twitching, his eyes unfocused, not scared but confused, as though reality kept slipping away from him. "Sir," I said again, "we need you to come with us." He muttered something intelligible, shaking his head, backing up against the dumpster. The cat scattered in fear. "We're not here to hurt you," I said gently, "but we need to take you in." His expression shifted rapidly from confusion to irritation, then to a strange, vacant calm. He didn't fight when I took his arm, didn't argue, didn't even seem to understand why we were there. He simply murmured under his breath, a stream of half-formed words, none of them making sense. When we guided him toward the car, my partner opened the back door. The old man paused, staring at the seat like he'd never seen a car before. I felt a knot in my stomach. Something was terribly wrong with him, not like a criminal hiding guilt, but like a man who had long since lost hold of his own mind. By the time we reached the station, even the chief could sense something was off. His hands were clenched, his jaw tight, as we led the man inside. Then came the moment that made the entire room fall silent. A nurse from the psychiatric hospital called. Her voice was urgent. She explained that a patient, a man with the exact same name, physical description, and age, had gone missing from their facility earlier that week. A man diagnosed with severe psychosis, extreme dissociation, and violent delusions. He had been wandering off unnoticed during shift change. In his fractured mind, he believed the stray cats were stealing food from his dead wife. He had been reenacting a delusion from years ago, one that had haunted him since her death. It wasn't cruelty out of malice. It wasn't hatred. It was illness, severe, untreated, dangerous. When we transported him back to the hospital, the staff recognized him immediately. The nurses apologized, explaining that they had been searching for him nonstop. They took him inside with calm voices, gentle hands, and assured us he would be treated, monitored, and kept from harming others or himself. As we walked back to the cruiser, my partner whispered, "Jesus, Jack, that could have been so much worse." I nodded. But the truth was still sitting heavy on my chest. Because, though he was safe now, the cats, the innocent, defenseless creatures, were the ones who had paid the price. It wasn't over for me. I knew what my next step had to be.
Driving away from the psychiatric hospital felt nothing like victory. There were no high fives, no adrenaline rush, no satisfaction of case closed. There was only silence. The heavy, uncomfortable kind that presses into your ribs and keeps pressing long after the sirens fade. My partner stared out the window, jaw tight. I knew he was wrestling with the same strange cocktail of emotions I was. Anger, pity, confusion, sorrow. It's one thing to chase down a cruel person. It's another to face a man whose cruelty comes from a mind that's shattered beyond his control. "Jack," my partner finally said, "you did the right thing. We all did." But the words didn't help. Because every time I blinked, I kept seeing the cats. Burned, blind, trembling, still trying to trust the world even after it failed them again and again. And that alley. God, that alley felt haunted. Not by ghosts, but by suffering. So instead of going back to the station, I told my partner, "I'm heading to the alley. I need to see them again." He didn't question it. He just nodded. When I pulled up, the air was colder than the day before, sharp enough to sting my lungs. The cats were still there. Some were curled up together in little shaking piles. Others were limping near the dumpster, their wounds raw, their eyes swollen. A few hissed weakly when I approached, not out of aggression, but fear. Fear of what the world had already shown them. I crouched down slowly and spoke in a low voice, the way I do with scared children at accident scenes. "Hey," I whispered. "You're okay now. Nobody's gonna hurt you." One of the cats, a small one with half-burned whiskers, dragged itself closer, sniffed my glove, then collapsed into a trembling heap. Its body was shivering so violently I could feel the vibrations through the ground. I swallowed hard and pulled out my phone. It was time to make a call. The local animal welfare group answered on the first ring. I told them everything: the alley, the burns, the acid bottles, the terrified animals. I left nothing out. There was a long pause on the other end. Then the woman said, voice thick with emotion, "We'll send a team immediately. Please stay with them until we arrive." So I did. I sat on the cold pavement with those injured cats for nearly an hour. Some hid behind me, some stayed curled at my feet. One rested its head on my boot, as if claiming a small piece of safety. When the rescue van arrived, I helped load them in, one by one, gently, carefully. Some cried, some went limp from exhaustion. A few clung to the blankets as though afraid they'd lose that small comfort if they let go. After the van pulled away, leaving the alley empty for the first time in days, I leaned against my cruiser and closed my eyes. For the first time since the call came in, I let myself breathe. Not because the pain was gone. No, pain like that doesn't vanish, but because the suffering had finally stopped. The cats were safe. The man who hurt them was getting the help he needed, and the community, for once, wasn't looking away. I drove home that night with the strange mix of exhaustion and relief, but even then, something lingered under the surface, an ache I knew wouldn't fade quickly. Because sometimes justice isn't clean. Sometimes doing the right thing leaves you with scars nobody sees. But in that moment, I reminded myself of something I learned years ago on this job. We can't stop every act of cruelty, but we can choose to show up. And sometimes, that's what saves the world.
Back at the station, the air felt oddly still, as if the building itself sensed the gravity of the day. Officers moved quietly, voices low. Maybe news had spread faster than I realized. Or maybe it was just me, carrying the heaviness through the door like smoke on my uniform. My captain called me into his office. He wasn't the emotional type. 25 years in law enforcement had carved sharp lines along his face, and his eyes rarely softened. But that day, when I walked in and closed the door behind me, he didn't bark orders or flip through paperwork. He just looked at me for a long, measured moment. "Sit down, Jack." I did. He leaned back, folding his arms. "You okay?" The question hit harder than anything else that week. I stared at the carpet, dull gray, worn down in the middle where countless officers had stood before me, and finally answered, "I don't know." My captain nodded once, as if he expected that. "Write the report. Take your time. Then go home." So I did. The incident report took nearly 2 hours to complete. Not because the facts were complicated, they were painfully clear, but because writing them made everything feel real in a way that speech never could. Location of discovery, number of injured animals, description of chemical containers, condition of suspect upon detainment, transfer to psychiatric care. Each line felt like carving something heavy into stone. When I finally finished, I walked the papers to the captain's office, placed them on his desk, and he gave me a slow nod,
a silent acknowledgement. As I left the station, the sun was dipping low, turning the sky into a bruised band of purple and red, a fitting color for the day. I drove without thinking, letting muscle memory guide me through the quiet streets of Michigan. The roads blurred into a long ribbon of asphalt. Houses passed in a slow drift, porches, mailboxes, trees with thinning leaves. People going about their evenings, unaware of the cruelty that had been unfolding so close to them. Eventually, I found myself parked outside my own home, lights off, curtains drawn, still. Inside, I didn't turn on the TV, didn't grab dinner, didn't do anything except sit on the edge of my bed and stare at my hands, still faintly smelling of antiseptic from the veterinary clinic. Hands that had held cats trembling with pain, hands that had cuffed a man whose mind had betrayed him, hands that had tried to put order into something senseless. I remember whispering into the quiet room, "Why?" And the silence offered no answer, as silence usually doesn't. But after a long time, when the weight finally eased enough for me to breathe, a thought surfaced. Simple, quiet. True. Cruelty is loud, but kindness whispers, and we have to choose to listen. That night, I wrote an email to the animal welfare group offering donations and support. It wasn't enough to erase what had happened, but it was a step, a promise that I wasn't turning away. Then, for the first time that week, I slept. Not easily, not deeply, but without nightmares. And sometimes, especially in this line of work, that's the closest we get to peace. The next morning, I drove back to the shelter. I told myself it was to check on the cats, to file follow-up notes, to speak with the veterinarian. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. Some cases stick to you, cling to the walls of your mind, echo long after the paperwork is done. This was one of them. When I walked inside, the staff recognized me immediately. Their faces softened, gentler than the day before, but still carrying a shared heaviness. One of the techs led me to the recovery room, and there they were, bandaged, resting, safe. Some slept, curled into tight balls as if trying to hide inside themselves. Others blinked at me with slow, exhausted curiosity. None hissed, none shied away, not after everything they'd endured. It broke something inside me, and healed something too. Funny how pain can do that. A volunteer approached me, holding a clipboard. "We'll make sure every one of them gets medical care, food, and eventually homes," she said. "We promise." I believed her. Before leaving, I placed my hand gently against the side of one kennel door. The cat inside lifted its head just enough to meet my eyes. Just enough to remind me that life clings hard, even when people fail it. Driving back toward the station, I watched the town roll past the windshield. Michigan felt different now. Not darker, but more honest. Sometimes we imagine the world is split between good people and bad people. But this case had taught me something more complicated. There is suffering we see, suffering we ignore, and suffering we prevent. And the line separating those three things, it's us, our choices, our courage, our willingness or refusal to step in. My job as a police officer had shown me violence, cruelty, neglect, more than most people ever witness. But it had also shown me the other side, the one that mattered more. Strangers helping strangers, volunteers staying up all night to save lives that weren't their own, a community willing to act when action was needed. Goodness that doesn't demand attention, but quietly repairs the damage cruelty leaves behind. I parked outside the station and stepped out of the cruiser. For the first time in days, the air felt lighter. Maybe because I finally understood something. You can't stop every evil in the world, but you can stop it from happening in front of you. And sometimes, that is enough. I walked toward the entrance. Another shift, another day, another chance to choose the right thing. Because if there's one truth this case carved into me, one truth I will carry long after the files are closed, it's this. Humanity is measured not by how we treat each other, but by how we treat those who cannot fight back. And as long as I wear the badge, I intend to measure up.